Welcome to the very first episode of the Wood Couture podcast, Incredible Indian Designer series. This is a very special edition, and to start in Delhi with the number one man, the chairman of the India Institute of Interior Design, not only, but also the leader of the Delhi chapter and the founder of the Delhi chapter. And last but not least, is also the principal designer of Abraxas Interiors and Architecture, the one and only Hemant Sud.
Thank you, Filippo. Pleasure to be here.
Likewise, it's an absolute pleasure to have you. It's an honor to have you as the very first podcast series. So, and I want to dive in for the people that don't know you and they are excited to hear all about you. We want to learn about your journey, where you all started.
Was started 40 years ago. It's my 41st year in the business. Started 40 years ago when interior design was not a profession, really 40 years ago in India. So I'm self-taught. My educational qualifications are BCom, that's Bachelor's of Commerce, Masters of Commerce, LLB. I'm supposedly an advocate or at least a lawyer without a practice. And when I finished all that, I realized this is not what's my calling. I decided that design and photography, which is something I'd been doing from childhood, and art, I was always an artist. I felt this is the time that maybe I could take those up as a profession. So I started Abraxas Interiors and Abraxas Photography in 1984, that's 40 years ago. And struggled a bit in the beginning because there wasn't too much to do. And the funny thing was that in 84, in fact in the 80s, nobody in India would pay a penny for interior design. They would pay for architecture because architecture was an established profession. The Council of Architecture was there. Everything was formalized. But interior design was a very ad hoc, informal, unorganized sector altogether. So nobody would pay, no client would ever pay for interior design. We had to do what is called contracting, or what is today called design and build. So we would do the execution, supply the furniture, and in the cost of that furniture would be hidden the cost of the design because nobody was paying us officially.
Wow.
And that's how this story started.
Alongside your journey, have you found in the very early years of your, venturing into the interior design world and art as well, very important, is have you had a mentor or somebody you were looking up to?
A lot of mentors, but indirectly. As I said, no formal education. Today I teach design. Today I teach photography, and I'm not trained for either of them. What I'm trained for, I don't touch. So it's very ironical, but that's how it is. And I didn't have a mentor as somebody who held my hand and taught me, but there are a lot of people whose work I was influenced with. So I saw some great designers, I saw some great photographers, got to know some of them. I wouldn't say worked with closely, but on and off on a project to project basis, worked with some of them. And that's been my learning. That's been my teaching. That's how I learned.
What is the best business advice you've been given?
Don't give up.
Work hard.
Even more than work hard. Everyone works hard. Even the labor on my site works hard, probably harder than me. But there are times when there are ups and there are downs, and there are times when you really feel it's like giving up, and that's when you have to, make up your mind and decide that you're going to go through it regardless.
Who was that told you that? Don't give up.
A lot of people. A lot of my seniors, a lot of people who are responsible for bringing me to where I am today.
You know the proud chairman of the India Institute of Interior Design, which is the number one institution, more than 10,000 members, 38 plus chapters all over the country, and very well-known names, which we want to interview alongside of the series of the incredible Indian designers. And but what is the main role of the India Institute of Interior Design?
Well, first thing that the institute does is we try to regulate the profession of design. We have a similar situation many years before us, which is the architects. There was an Indian Institute of Architects, which is the counterpart of the top triple ID. They worked hard, did exactly what we are doing, got the people together, got the numbers, and finally went to government and got a statutory provision, an act passed called the Architects Act, and that formed the Council of Design, Council of Architecture. And the Council of Architecture today regulates the entire business of architecture, from the education to the examinations to the certifying of educational institutions which are teaching or imparting education in architecture, to the examinations, to the number of people who pass out, to the certificate of practice, to the continuing certificate of practice. So the entire control of that architecture business or architecture profession is with the council. We have been requesting the government, talking to the government. They are open to the fact, but so far it's not been done. We hope it will be done very shortly, that there should be a council of design. They should take in not just interior design, but graphic design, furniture design, product design, even fashion design. And there should be a council of design so that the profession can be regulated. Today, anyone and his uncle can claim to be a designer.
Right.
So you are from a different country. Suppose you are a designer. You can come in here and have a certificate of practice from your country to come here. Say that you are a qualified designer and work in India. And a lot of foreign architects and interior designers are working in India. But I don't have a certificate of practice in my own country. So how do I go, for example, to Dubai and say I want to practice there? I can't.
Right. So you provide the correct ethics and the program certifications, making sure that the profession has a very high level of standards. And I read all over your literature and website and that, and I was very, very impressed because you talk about design, but then you go hospitality design. The word hospitality come up many times. Why is that?
It's one of the important parts of design.
Wow.
You have corporate design, you have residential design, industrial design. Hospitality is very much one of the aspects. We have certain people, many of whom we're going to interview in this podcast series, who focus solely on hospitality.
Yes.
We have friends, leading designers in both in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Bangalore, who are going to be part of your podcast, who are doing some of the top hotel chains in the country, or in even the international hotel chains which are present in India.
Why, throughout your journey, you never considered to go abroad and stay in India?
I think there's enough work in India. Today, the India story is booming. The world is looking at India. Why should I look outside?
Very much inside the box.
Yes.
Outside, right? Is incredible. You support a lot the students, the next generation, and you promote the future designers of that. What activities do you carry out with to support the young generation?
See, Triple ID has two main objectives. One is networking, and second is knowledge sharing. Networking is where we do events, conferences, symposiums, workshops, exhibitions, by any name or you call it, where we get the entire industry together. And when we get them together, it gives them an opportunity to network. Your professional member, who's an architect or an interior designer, is able to meet the vendor, who's a contractor, a dealer, a distributor, an importer, or a manufacturer of interior products, who's also able to meet the educational institutions and the teachers and the faculty from where the students are going to come. And then we have a student membership where the students are also part of the fraternity. So we get the entire fraternity together. Even the press is part of the fraternity. So we have a press membership also. So anyone and everyone who's directly or indirectly connected with the field of interior design is welcome. And by the way, I'd like to put this point out there. We are the only professional organization in the country where a trade membership is available. A trader can become a member of the association. You cannot become a member of, say, the bar council, where the lawyers are there. You cannot become, if you are, say, manufacturing a product, say, printing books for the legal fraternity. You could be a pharmaceutical company, but you cannot become a member of the medical council. Right. You could be a vendor in interiors or architecture or building material. You cannot become a member of the Indian Institute of Architects, but you can become a member of IIID. So we are the only people who takes the trade with us.
Wow.
It's not for the professionals, by the professionals, of the professionals. It's for the trade also.
You it's interesting how your philosophy that you promote through the institute and through your member go through each member, and they do practice. They don't just preach it. The next guest we're going to have tonight, Vivek Gupta, is the one that got the philosophy of being to suit. So, and really promoting close collaboration, design and vendors.
Yes.
And it's incredible how I was reading his biography, and what you're just telling me now is real, on a day-to-day.
Yes, Vivek is doing exactly the same thing as are many others, where we connect with the trade fraternity. See, the trade members, we are incomplete without the trade fraternity. It's a bold statement to make. I don't think some of my colleagues may be very happy with it. But the fact remains is that what the traders make, what they manufacture, are the building blocks of the industry. If I don't have a product, what will I design? The design remains on paper. If it has to come up in reality, the product is required. And then there's a contractor who's required, or an installer who's required, who's will take that product and, install it at the site. Otherwise, we are just drawing on paper.
I was reading some of your interviews and also the bio that there is on the institute about you and the philosophy, and you mentioned that a big topic there is all over the world, sustainability, and you say it's got three dimensions: economical, social, and environmental.
Yeah.
But I like one part, which I think for me did it, is saying that is a form of intergenerational ethics, which is great. So what I want to ask you is sustainability discussion chapter really request by client, or is it just need to be seen to be doing?
Can I be a little controversial here?
Yeah, please.
No client has really ever asked for something that is really, really sustainable. They want the green building stamp, they want the platinum rating, they want the FAR benefits that the builder gets because it's going to be a green building. They want all the benefits that come out of it, but take away those benefits and would they want a green building? Because the green building costs much more. The green interiors cost much more. Would they be ready to invest that extra amount if the benefit wasn't there? That's, I would feel, the acid test. It's not been put to the test, so I don't know, but I have a feeling a lot of the people who have these fancy buildings will fail.
Wow.
So the incentive is there, so they go green. It's a good talking point. It's a good selling point for a builder. It's a great selling point. I'm a platinum rated building, buy my flat. Like for example, today, this morning itself, I've seen 2 projects being sold saying designed by Hafiz Contractor, great, one of the greatest architects of India. And another one, this is designed by Morphogenesis and Manit and Sonali, again amongst the top architects of India. So buildings are now being sold by the name of the architect.
Wow.
So it's a marketing technique. Not that they're not good, they're the best in the country, no doubt, but they're being used. So, and I'm very happy with that. For the first time, interior designers and architects are actually being recognized by the public in general. We are well known. In fact, Vivek is the person your next interviewee in the podcast. And I keep talking to him and he says, we are great talking to people, giving lectures in lecture halls. Nobody outside the hall knows us. We are known only inside that hall. The minute we step out of the hall, nobody knows us. But for example, fashion design, everyone knows a fashion designer because they have publicity. So I'm very happy today that today buildings are being sold because Hafiz or Morphogenesis or any of the big design companies are the architects of that project, or somebody else is the landscape consultant of that project, or somebody else is even the interior designer of that project. It's great. It's the recognition we are looking for all our members, not just a few, but all of them.
Do you feel confident that having a building design by one of your members, which is a certified member, a recognized figure, can achieve a premium on a sale.
Yes, it does. It will, and it does. Wow. And this should happen more and more. The proof of the pudding, they say, is in the eating. The very fact that you have an ad in the papers saying designed by a Hafiz contractor and designed by Morphogenesis, which I saw just this morning, both on the mobile phone, somewhere on social media.
Chris, they get interactions in the market. People can recognize it as the fashion designer. So I'm happy to pay a bit more because there is a quality.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic.
Builders have started doing that with brands also. Today they'll advertise, but my kitchen is from so-and-so Italian or German company. I'm using so-and-so air conditioner. I'm using this technology. I'm using modular cupboards. I'm using automation. All that is being done on brands with brand values. That means brands help to sell the product. And if the designers and the architects can become brands, well, that's our objective.
Do you think that when you walk into a building, and obviously you know them all, so the people that design them, so you will know who designed them, but would you recognize some aspect of a specific designer?
Very rarely. I think some residential design, yes, I would still say I could recognize them because furniture and artifacts and some personal touches are there which you could make. Building's very difficult because building also is stipulated a lot by the requirements of the builder. Right? So the designer will put in all his expertise, but they will obviously follow what is the diktat of the client.
And another part of your narrative that you have in your bio and that, and I love this. And
you've done a lot of research.
No, I tell you, it will take me a lifetime to read everything you done. So I'm slightly younger than you. I will need another life to read all your 41 years in business is a lot. It's 4 decades.
Yes.
41 years ago, I was 10. So I was playing with toys. But I quote, spaces are designed not just to be aesthetically pleasing, but also functional, practical, and comfortable. 3 keywords that are very essential for hospitality. What challenges do you think modern design present?
No, I mean, these 3 things are the benchmarks of a good design. Functionality is so important. For hospitality, it's today I think after COVID, things have changed a little bit. And people have changed. Hospitality industry took a big hit because nobody was traveling. And after COVID got over, I think they've reaped the benefits of that because now people are traveling with a vengeance because they don't know when the next lockdown may happen or life may come to a standstill. So, but during the COVID and right after it, a few months into COVID, phase 1 and phase 2 and everything, a lot of design changes came in, materials changed, functionalities changed. I think a lot of the costings also got affected. So the whole design scenario has changed because of COVID. And but functionality will never change. Comfort will never change. Right? Material may change because of its usability, or from maybe it's not good for germs, or it's easier to clean or more difficult to clean. Those things are practical aspects. So things have changed. We've gone more towards sustainability, definitely. We've gone more towards a lot of effort has also come into bring in vernacular architectures or vernacular design, so that you're going back to your roots. Nature has come back. So we have started a lot of more building with natural products within the 50 kilometer radius, 100 kilometer radius of the site, rather than getting products from an Italian marble from Italy. Why not to use an Indian marble, for example? So all those things have definitely come in, but the basic facts will never change.
Since you brought up the fashion as a subject, and we link in the recognition that now interior designer get almost equal as fashion designer.
Not yet. We're not yet there. We're heading there. We're heading there.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
We push it. Hopefully, after all this podcast, hopefully, we will do a Champions League of, of interior design. But Coco Chanel used to say that if it's not comfortable, it's not luxury. What's your views on that?
Oh, luxury is another, it's worse than sustainability. Sustainability, I used to say, is amongst the most used and misused words in our industry. Luxury is even more.
Right.
There was a definition of luxury, I don't remember exactly. It's something that is wasteful and useless,
What's the
or something to that effect. I don't remember the exact wordings. We've had a lot of discussions on that, panel discussions, conversations, private conversations, and everyone defines luxury in a different way.
So how do you translate when clients come to you and saying, hey, in your private, settings, as a designer and owner of a firm, I want a luxury house. Why do you start with people like that?
For some people, luxury means comfort, but for most people, luxury means, again, I'm being a little controversial here, but depending on the client, it means how much money is going to show. So they buy brands. That's why brands sell, actually. So there's nothing wrong in that. So they will buy a brand. So a lady buys an LV bag because it's an LV bag. If it didn't cost as much as it did, maybe she wouldn't have bought it. So same goes with clients. Some people design for comfort, some people design for functionality, and some people design because it's good society talk and they can show off.
There are some people that, staying within the topic of design, going more towards, gravitating towards the private business. And there are some people that claim that designers can never design to budget. Is a reality or non-conventional truth?
It's both.
Yeah.
I don't want to design with a constraint of a budget. It does hamper my design.
Yeah.
I can, of course, have the experience and the practicality of changing my design a little bit, not too much, but a little bit, to accommodate another material which may be cheaper. Because the cost is determined by the material, not by the design. Whether it's a flooring, whether it's a ceiling, whether it's a wall paneling, whether it's a piece of furniture, the design, more or less, the general specifications remain the same. But I can buy this sofa, the one that you're sitting on, for 20,000 rupees, Indian rupees. I can buy the same thing for 2 lakh Indian rupees. I can buy the same thing for 6 lakh Indian rupees. That will change the budget. The look and feel will be 20%, 30% different. If you can live with it, we can adjust the budget.
Is that your interpretation of quality levels?
Yes. Quality also comes with again, I'm being a little controversial. Quality also comes, I wouldn't mind moving from the 20,000 rupee per sofa, per seat sofa, to maybe 50,000 rupees, because there is a quality increase. The quality of the wood, the quality of the frame, the quality of the foam, everything gets better. But after 50,000 rupees or 75,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees is a benchmark. If I'm paying 3 lakh rupees per seat simply because it happens to be a bespoke Italian brand with a 75% custom duty, then I'm paying for things that are not really helping my client in any way. Except it's good society talk.
What is the biggest challenges of doing design nowadays?
Biggest challenges of design has always been the client.
Why is that?
Because he holds your hand when you want to design something, he holds your hand when you want to spend something.
But if I go to
when he doesn't pay at the end of it, you can't hold his hand.
But if I go to a doctor and tell him I have a problem with my tummy, I cannot hold his hand. He's the expert. So when people come to you and they want to design,
So they come to you, so it works that way. But somewhere down the line, you get some very great clients too, no doubt about it. I'm not saying every client is there, but it's become a joke in our industry that, sometimes getting a good client is like a blessing. Most clients will invariably cut corners, ask for discounts, badger everyone, not pay off contractors. It's happened. It's the dirty truth, the ugly truth of the industry, which everyone wants to sweep under the carpet, but it's there.
And what are the challenges also of designing hotels in India nowadays?
Hotels in India are doing extremely well, I feel. The level of hospitality in India is second to none. I think we are way better off than American and European hotels because of the space, the number of people per guest. So the kind of hospitality services that we are able to provide, the comfort, the luxury. But once again, the format of hospitality design in India is the land is owned by the client, the construction is done by the client, the management contract is done by one of the big international or Indian chains. So there's a constant conflict. As a designer, if I'm appointed by the client, I'm always told cut cost, cut cost, cut cost. While I'm dealing with the foreign chain. If I'm appointed by the foreign chain, I'm saying, no, I want to have this brand. And that guy wants to go to China and get an equivalent brand or the same brand printed on the thing. So it's a constant conflict. I've worked with some of the biggest hotel chains. I've worked with most of the Indian chains. I've been fortunate to work with the Taj. I've been fortunate to work with the Lalit. Fortunate to work with Starwood. It's the same story everywhere. The client always wants, with the Indian chains, it's not so much because they build their own hotels. Except now they've slowly started with this also management concept. The foreign companies all have management contracts. So it's a continuous problem.
How does it feel when you hear the word value engineering?
I mean, to have two thoughts about that. One is it's good, value engineering is good. But when value engineering comes at the requirement of cutting the budget, then it's not good. Value engineering is fine when budget is one of the objectives, but you're not sacrificing functionality, you're not sacrificing comfort. Then it's fine. Then it works perfectly. It makes sense. But when value engineering is only coming in from the, which I mentioned to you, is only with the one of sole objective is to cut cost, then it affects your design. Philip, one problem is there. I design a hotel, I design a restaurant, I design a house, I design even a corporate office. In the end, nobody asks who the contractor was. Nobody asks which was the material or brand of carpet or flooring or fabric that was used. They'll only ask one question: who was the designer? So all those things finally affect the final outcome. And if they affect the final outcome in a way, they affect me.
So your reputation is a stake.
It is a stake. We are worried about that, but there's only that much we can do. You can't fight with your client also.
But don't you feel that when people talk about engineering, design integrity might be affected?
It will always be affected.
But why do we need to reach that point? That is the question I always ask.
See, value engineering makes, as I said, makes sense when something is not being sacrificed. For example, I'll give you an example. Many years ago, we were doing a hotel in Chandigarh, the Sheraton. And a foreign architect was there from Singapore. Now, they gave a FF&E manual. That manual had products out of Singapore. Now, it's understood that I will not use a product out of Singapore. I'm sitting in Chandigarh, which is close to Delhi. I will obviously buy an Indian product, an equivalent Indian product. So that's value engineering from that point of view, where it's just practical. I'm not trying to cut costs. I'm just being very sensible and practical and buying things that are available in my country. So I'm saving on the custom duty, I'm saving on the freight and shipping, and I'm also ensuring that the availability happens within 3 weeks and not in 3 months when it comes by containers and by sea. So those are practical things. But if after that there's got to be further value engineering in the form of cutting costs, because now the client wants to cut costs, that is going to affect the design integrity, for sure.
That's very interesting, because what you just described is very interesting, because technically what you're saying is, rather than end up at the last minute or the end of the process to do value engineering, why don't they engineer value by sourcing locally?
Yes,
for the additional
and have it from the beginning. The trouble also is when value engineering is from the beginning, it's a ideal concept that is working through the entire project. It's perfectly fine. But when value engineering comes towards the end of the project, it's only for cost cutting.
Wow.
Because that's when the budget goes. I have a biggest problem, for example, with soft furnishing and artwork. As an artist, I have this biggest lament that nobody spends money on the artwork, because the story is money is over. They spent it on the land, then they spent it on the construction, then they spent it on the interiors. Whatever was left was supposed to be for the soft furnishings, the carpets, the artifacts, the wall paintings and everything. And in a hotel, you need hundreds of them. The client will turn around and say, no money left. Leave the walls bare.
I always say to people, the FF&E is the dress of the hotel.
Yeah.
The art is the lipstick.
Correct.
So without lipstick for a woman, it's like you're missing a piece of the puzzle.
Well, next time I go to a client, I'm going to take you with me. You can tell him this part of it.
Yeah, we exchange, we both promote the goodness. In your private, organizations, what are your proudest projects?
Proudest project. 2, 3 of them. Can I? You have to start. Okay. One interesting project was, I remember I told you that when, initially when I started in 84, nobody paid a penny for design. And that carried on, and I had a factory, I would make furniture, I had workers at the site, because that is where the money was coming from.
Right.
In 1993, that is 9 years after I started, India decided they had to have mobile telephones. And Airtel in Delhi was one of the first networks to be set up. And Ericsson Telephone Corporation from Sweden came in to set up the infrastructure for them. And we just happened to meet the managing director of the company. He met me. He said we want to do a designer for the building that we just taken. They'd taken a small 6-storied building, small floor plate, but 6 floors. And they wanted to sit around 40, 45, 50 people. So they asked me to design it. We designed it for them. After the design was approved, they asked for a budget. We gave them the budget. And then he said, I want to start the work. So I said, great. He said, give me the money, I'll start. And he said, who's the contractor? I said, I'm the contractor. So he said, no, you're the designer. So I said, well, this is India. The contractor and the designer is the same. He said, no, we are from Sweden. The contractor and the designer is different. So he says, you'd have to take a call right now. If you are the contractor, then I'm going to get the whole design scrapped and get somebody else to design it, and you do the contracting. I like you. I trust you. But if you are the designer and you can't do the contracting, get me another person to do the contracting. And that is the first time I went back and had to sit and think, am I going to become a contractor, or do I want to become a designer? And there's probably 5 times more money in contracting, but I chose design, and I'm so happy I did that. Yeah. So 1993, I just officially became a designer in my own country.
Wow. You were practicing design and build without knowing it.
Yes, I was.
Right.
So 1993, Ericsson project, my very close friend, who was, as a coincidence, I'm not an architect, he was an architect. He was doing contracting. He became my contractor for that project, and we did that project together.
Wow. The other one?
So that was the first design fee I got in my life. Pure design fee.
Economically was the proudest part back.
Yes.
Second project?
Second project was one of the landmark projects we did, which was the Lalit Great Eastern Hotel.
Wow.
It is the oldest hotel building in India. In Asia, there are only 2 older hotels than this, both built by the British. The Raffles in Singapore and the Fullerton.
Wow.
And as a coincidence, an Indian architect based out of Singapore had restored both those buildings. So he was hired to restore Great Eastern at Kolkata, and we got the design contract. So we did the design development, and it was supposed to be a 2-year contract, but because it was an ASI building, Archaeological Survey of India, it was more than 100-year-old building. So we couldn't touch any of the basic structure. We could add to it, but we couldn't, chase the walls or do anything there. Already there was 18-inch walls, so we had to pad them and make them 24 inches, and then run our channels and our conduits through that. So it took us 4 years instead of 2 years, but it was an amazing project, and we learnt a lot. And the building was right next to the Raj Bhavan, that's the governor's residence, which was right next to the river. And water would flow from below that, and every time we do something, it would settle, and the big cracks would appear, and the ASI would stop the building. So it was tough, it was difficult, it was a huge learning experience, and it was fun.
Still there, the Lalit?
Oh yes, absolutely. It's one of the best hotels in Kolkata right now. And the oldest building, the 100 and that time 170-year-old building, today must be probably 190, 190 or 185 years. It's got girders, steel girders, with which the Empire State Building was also made. And on those girders is written Wilson Hotel 18 something, some whatever the date was. That plate is, it's still riveted there. And instead of removing it or covering it, we actually cleaned it up and put a spotlight on it.
Wow.
So you have a beautiful old bed. You get off that bed and you almost walk into that girder, because it's really coming out of nowhere. But it's one of the highlights of the, and people pay.
Museum.
Yes, and people pay $250 per night for it.
Wow. Fantastic. And last one, you mentioned three of them.
Three. So the third one is something that I'm currently doing, which is my passion right now. Maybe because I just turned cross 60, so
You're still young.
I'm young, but I'm just saying it brings, because it's called luxury senior living, and you become a senior citizen when you cross 60. So that's the connect for me. And so this is there's a very famous project in Dehradun called Antara, which is by the Max Group. We've set up, my client has set up a project just 4 plots away from that on the same road. And it's a high-rise structure, it's the tallest building of Dehradun. And it's 110 luxury senior living flats. So the good part is that, we visited Antara a few times. We visited all the other senior living projects in India. We did a whole lot of research on it and read up every book and every reference material there was on senior living. And today I am very happy to say that the project is complete. The final handover is on 1st January, but I think 20 families are already staying in the property. And it is the buzz of Dehradun. The whole city is talking about it. Most of Uttarakhand is talking about it.
For our friends that are going to watch us in the United States, because you mentioned senior living in the United States is huge.
Huge, absolutely.
It's a huge market. And is designing a senior living product different than designing a normal apartment block?
Yes.
Why is that?
People think it's just changing materials, going anti-skid, having grab bars or having rounded corners. That's one part of it. See, senior living comes, especially this project that I am doing, and is being done by my client, who I must say is one of the best clients I've had, because we've gone through 3 phases of COVID, so the project got delayed by a year. But he's had the heart and the perseverance to carry on, now bring it to its fruition, and now it's a very, very successful project. The main thing is that it has 3 components. One is real estate, buying the land, making the building, selling it, handing over the registered property to somebody. You spend an X amount of money, you get a property in your name. That's part of the real estate. Every builder does that. The second part in that is that the builder does not sell and leave. He stays on in the project and handles the entire project. So the maintenance, the housekeeping, the security, the lifts, the F&B, the spa, the salon, the laundry, the housekeeping, the room service, everything is handled by a second company, which is also owned by the builder and partly by the RWA, the Residents Welfare Association. And they run the entire building. So it's run by the builder. So the builder who builds and runs away is a person who's built just a builder. He builds a flat, sells it, goes away and never comes back. If there's a problem, you handle it on your own. Here he stays on in the building. He owns some part of the building. All the common areas are owned by him, managed by him, run by him. So the entire hospitality component, the second component of this project, is also handled by the builder. And the third thing is there, which no other project has. It's a senior living, which means you can buy the property only if you're 50 years old or above. You can shift in when you're 60 and above. Most people there are 70, 75. Healthcare becomes the third component. There is automation, there is sensors, there are lights that are there so that people don't fall. There is a in-house ER room, an emergency room where a person, if he has a heart attack or a stroke, could be stabilized. There is 24-hour nursing station. There is a doctor on duty, not on call, on duty. We have an ambulance on duty, an ambulance driver on duty, and a Fortis hospital hardly 3 kilometers away. So if something happens to somebody, and we have stretcher lifts and a stretcher in-house. If something happens to somebody, I can get him or her to the ER room within 3 minutes, and then into the hospital within 7 minutes. In 10 minutes, I can get the person into the ICU of the hospital. That will save lives.
Wow.
So that is the component which I think is the most important, most underrated, but the most important component of this project.
Another thing that characterizes you, that is in your bio, you are a savvy promoter of well-being. And it comes back into your design because you were just describing how you put into practice a well-being philosophy into buildings. And also, we need to mention, since it's in Dehradun, and we are sitting here at the Andaz, which is our proud sponsor of the space and the podcast. And this is a lovely Hyatt Regency Dehradun.
Yes, also designed by somebody you're going to be interviewing tomorrow, I think.
Exactly. So
Love is a very good friend and amazing designer.
Great. And last but not least, I want to ask you is the day that you basically deciding I'm gonna hang up my boots and enjoy my senior living properties, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, firstly, I'm making a senior living property, very much involved in it. We've taken up 2 more projects in Goa and in Gurgaon.
Wow.
But my idea is to go out with my boots on. So I'm not planning to shift into any senior living anytime soon. What would I like to be remembered?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe somebody who got the community together.
So the one that bonded people, brought it together.
I suppose so. That's been my target for the last many years. I saw Triple ID. I met the Triple ID people 25 years ago. I somehow saw something that I thought, we are in this fraternity. We're going to earn a living out of this fraternity, earn a name in this fraternity. Why don't we give back to it? 25 years ago, all the people you're interviewing today were names. I knew their names. I had never met them. Today they're all friends. If there's anyone who's responsible for that, it's Triple ID.
Before we come into an end of our chat, which I can stay here forever talking to you.
I can say one more thing. I would like to say, I see something on Instagram or, a lot of company names or big designers, and they describe themselves as a multidisciplinary design firm, whatever. And before that, it's normally an award-winning multidisciplinary design firm. And that's the general description of almost every big designer or design firm. I've never won an award in my life. So the reason for that probably is not that I'm a bad designer. The reason for that is that once you're in Triple ID and I set it up 22 years ago, you kind of take on the responsibility of regulating and collaborating with the rest of the industry. So you automatically rule yourself out from the industry. So I was thinking of having a new one saying award giving this multidisciplinary firm, because that's what I've done. I've given hundreds of awards, sat on juries, but never won an award in my life.
I think the biggest award is that you won the heart of your 10,000 members.
I hope so. I hope so.
Job.
I hope so.
That's the biggest, I would say, biggest prize you can win. But again, I don't want to end this conversation, but I want to ask you one question, which is very relevant today and for the future generations. When you look back your 40 years experience, you all start with a pencil and a paper. Then they move into AutoCAD, with Autodesk Pro, the computers. Now they were talking about AI, artificial intelligence. Can AI substitute the interior designer?
No, it can substitute the draftsman, but not the interior designer.
Why is that?
Because design comes from the heart also. It is not just, and AI is based on machine learning. The amount of information or data you give it, the amount of time you give it to rehash that data and extract alternates from there, that's what it's good for. It's only as good as the input you put into it. But when it comes to creative thinking, I don't think you can match a human being on that. And that will never be matched. So the menial jobs, the drafting jobs, the repetitive jobs will be replaced. That's going to happen. And by the way, I think you have Manish on one of your podcasts.
Yes.
He's one of the, you have to talk to him about his experiments with AI, and I think it's outstanding.
Wow.
So We have some great designers in India and of course across the world who are doing great work with AI. But I don't think AI will ever replace design.
So I guess the message for the young generation is, yes, learn about AI, but don't give up your creative thinking.
Yeah, creative. Even today, even with all the computers and all the software and all the animation and the V-Rays and the SketchUps, we still tell them in first semester, learn to draw with your hands. Sketching is important. Some people give it up and then they can never visualize in 3D. You have another great designer coming next is Sarabjit and Jaskaran from Fab Interiors. Sarabjit makes the most amazing 3D sketches. The most amazing 3D sketches. He can sit here right now while your podcast is on and make you not one but maybe three sketches with color so beautiful that you will give him the work right away.
So why are Indian designers incredible?
Because India is incredible. You have to visit it. You have to visit it often enough to know.
What makes it different than the others?
Unity in diversity is the best thing I can think of. We have so many different thoughts, so many religions, so many languages, so many cultures, so much difference in food and dialects and everything. Yet it all merges together, it all comes together, and it needs a good designer to get it all together, but it can be done and it has been done. You look at the older work that we the Indians have done, and you look at what is happening today.
So not only is a great nation, but also a great bunch of good designers, let's say.
Yes, the great bunch of good designers comes from the society that we live in. If the country is good, the people are good, and there's no reason why the design will not be good.
Wow. I like what you say, unity in diversity. That's fantastic. That's a very powerful message. And so, final question. And unfortunately, we can stay here forever. That will be an absolute pleasure. If I put a huge canvas, white canvas, on top of the Burj Khalifa, so the entire planet can see it, it's the tallest building on the planet, what message would you write?
The message I got once: never give up.
I thought so, actually. I thought you were going to say that.
Yeah,
That's really like...
I've been through my very tough times personally also, and financially, physically, many ways. Professionally, of course, and then COVID, of course, hit all of us. But yeah, you can choose. You can't choose what happens in life, but you can choose how you react to it. You can react in a way that you give up, or you can react that you decide not to give up.
Yeah, Matt, thank you very much.
Pleasure's all mine.